Well, good afternoon. Oh, sorry. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We're very excited to have this member webinar today with ITS America Member Derq that is talking about how government and transit agencies can implement road safety technology. So there is no better time than now to talk about these innovative solutions. Go ahead to the next slide. So very quickly, I'm going to briefly introduce our members at Derq who are going to be talking today. So we have two leaders at Derq. We have Carl Jean-Bart, who's a COO and founder of Derq, and we have Arijit Bose, who is a senior product manager at Derq. And just for a little bit of background, for those of you who may not be familiar with Derq as a company, so Derq helps cities make smarter and safer systems for all road users by providing award-winning smart infrastructure platforms operated by AI. Their history is actually as an MIT spinoff, and their platforms run real-time edge analytics by fusing IoT, traffic cameras, and sensor data. So we're going to talk a little bit more about Derq and their solutions, but before we get started, I want to kind of frame out the conversation today. So you can go ahead to the next slide. Our agenda is first, we're going to talk about road safety priorities in the US today. Making roads safer a reality with Derq, talking about some of the use cases and solutions. Funding and scaling road safety solutions, which is very top of mind for everyone right now. And then we'll go into Q&A. So without further ado, let's go to the next slide and just talk about sort of the road safety priorities. You can go ahead to the next slide. There you go. Okay, so this is not going to be a surprise to anybody in our industry. We all know that we are living through a time of really tragic increased fatalities on our nation's roadways. As we can see, the numbers have been increasing since 2020, and they continue to rise. These numbers in front of you are actually numbers from the National Safety Council, which differ just a little bit from the data that NHTSA uses. But National Safety Council is estimating 46,000 deaths on our roadways for last year. The NHTSA data that you will see is estimating around 43,000, but regardless of which number you use, the trends are going in the wrong way. And we know that we have solutions out there today that are deployable that can change this trend and can save lives. So next slide, please. So US Department of Transportation has unveiled in the past, about 18 months ago, their national roadway safety strategy. So they have adopted a safe systems approach to reduce crashes, and they have put a lot of grant money towards safety. And we're going to talk about some of those funding opportunities a little bit later in this webinar. And so now it's really not a question of how cities and states can obtain money needed to address road safety. There are funding opportunities out there, but now it's time for government and transit agencies to be thinking about how to best use this money to truly benefit the future of transportation infrastructure in their communities and limit all traffic fatalities in the process. At ITS America, we believe that technology and ITS solutions must play a starring role in each element of a safe systems approach if we are truly to reduce fatalities and to get to our goal of 0 deaths. So we are very pleased to have members like Derq today who can showcase solutions of how you can actually use data in preventative ways to prevent crashes before they occur. So today, what attendees are going to learn is what's needed to successfully implement road safety technology and the analytical safety and traffic insights that these technologies collect and evaluate to tackle road safety issues. We're going to talk about establishing a road safety performance baseline and monitoring ongoing trends. We're going to talk about adaptive signal timing to not only optimize traffic, but also tackle safety issues. We're going to talk about leveraging connected infrastructure to alert vehicles of conflicts with vulnerable road users. And we're going to talk about alerting pedestrians and cyclists more effectively by using smartphone safety applications. Before I finish on this introduction, I would be remiss if I did not mention that we are all very aware that vulnerable road user fatalities have been going up at a much higher rate than other categories during this road safety crisis. And so a lot of the things we're talking about today are extremely relevant to communities who are looking to improve their safety for those who are outside the vehicle, vulnerable road users walking, cycling, and using the road in different ways. So with that, let me turn it over to Carl to talk about the use cases.
Thank you, Laura. So before we jump into some of the use cases that Arijit will be presenting today, let me just give you some more background on who DURC is. As Laura mentioned, DURC is an MIT spinoff, and our mission is to help agencies make their roads safer and ready for autonomous driving. We actually come from the autonomous driving space, some research at MIT, and we saw there was an opportunity in the infrastructure space. That infrastructure was basically lacking in terms of technology development, lagging, I should say, right, better than lagging behind. There was a lot of advancements in vehicle technology, not enough in infrastructure. So we decided to take those concepts that were being developed for the autonomous vehicle space, the autonomous driving space, and apply them to the transportation infrastructure space. And one of the key topics is, of course, sensor solutions, and what you do with the sensing data. And this is why we built an AI-powered platform that aggregates and fuses data from traffic cameras and other traffic sensors into our real-time analytics engine, which delivers actionable safety and traffic insights. And you'll see some examples of what those insights are and how we can make them actionable. And then at the same time, also deliver connected infrastructure solutions using V2X and other types of technologies. We're very fortunate to be trusted by a number of forward-thinking agencies, the likes of Michigan or DOT, Ohio DOT, Florida DOT, forward-looking cities as well. City of Dublin is a great partner of ours. Detroit, the city of Detroit, we are a Detroit-based company, as well as the city of Fremont in California, and other partners in the industry. And also very fortunate to have been recognized and awarded across multiple industry forums at the likes of South by Southwest, Together for Safer Roads, and most recently, we were awarded the Global ITS Innovation Award at the ITS World Congress in LA. So now to dive deeper into some of these solutions, and we have two use cases to illustrate what we do today, I will hand over to Arijit to start with our safety data collection and predictive insights offering.
Thanks, Carl. Hi, everyone. So at DURC, we take pride in being recognized as one of the pioneers in the video-based safety analytics industry. We have a very extensive offering when it comes to detecting incidents, different behaviors and violations, as well as near misses and crashes. Our solution, as you can see as part of the offering here, has an extensive reporting toolkit where you can manage events, view events, or run different forms of statistical analysis. We have a whole forensic toolkit to conduct deep dive analysis, including heat maps and other sophisticated reports. Let's talk about a few key features of our solution now. Well, it is powered by AI, which is capable of improving video analytics performance drastically. And DURC has been tested to have one of the industry-leading computer vision algorithms. DURC is primarily a software platform, which makes it cost-effective to deploy. We are flexible, and we have a hardware-agnostic setup. We can work with existing camera sensors or newly deployed ones. We can be deployed with edge devices inside a cabinet or in centralized servers. Our solution provides real-time granular level analytics, thereby automating the monitoring of video data on a continuous basis. We allow agencies to go from being reactive to being proactive when it comes to dealing with safety issues. With our solution, the agency would have a lot more richer data to better inform treatment design and monitor performance with a very short turnaround time. We will jump into a few examples to showcase how our solution could have helped in identifying different safety issues. And in this first example, we will talk about driving behavior causing issues at an intersection. Here is an intersection where we deployed our solution. It has been running for about 10 months. Just as we proceed with it, I would like to highlight that crash module of DURC is right now in its beta version, as we are testing it with a few partners, and it's yet to go live in production. Here we have detected 17 crashes over the last 10 months, and 13 of those involved permissive left turns. We'll play the first video now. As you can see in this first video, vehicles are taking left turns and how one of those taking left turn collided with the through moving vehicle. The next video has a very similar type of crash. However, I would call it a bit more severe than the previous one. I would like to point it out to you all that the intersection is large. The vehicles attempting to take a left turn on an approach spanning 5 lanes, and you can understand that estimating the gap while turning left can become pretty difficult here. As I mentioned earlier, DURC can help identify the patterns and potential of danger as well. For the same time period of 10 months, we have been running our near miss analysis here as well. And we identified about 5,500 near misses at this intersection that involve permissive left. Let me now play the video. As you can see, it's a very similar behavior that could have resulted into a crash as well. And that's what we can identify with our solution before a crash happens. The heat map you can see at the bottom highlights a hotspot, which represents about 3,000 conflicts related to permissive left at the same area as we have seen in the previous video examples. With the analytics data, the near misses, crashes, and hotspot analysis, we can clearly see that there is something to be done at this intersection for permissive left turns. With that, we will now move on to the next example. We can apply pretty similar concepts to vulnerable road users now. It's a different intersection where, again, we have been running for about 10 months. The crashes shown here both involved cyclists crossing the road. However, those happened due to different reasons. And the beauty of our platform is that we were able to capture both of these. In the first example, a cyclist was crossing the road while it collided with a right turning vehicle. Well, it might have happened due to various reasons. The vehicle turning right might not have anticipated the cyclist, and it might have been the case that its view was occluded by vehicles present at the other lanes. This echoes the idea as shown in the last example as well, that vehicles might struggle at large intersections. In the second video, we will play it. We can see that a vehicle was making right turn where it collided with a cyclist crossing the road. It seems like the driver might have been distracted, causing this crash, which resulted into a pretty severe one, at least compared to the last one. Similar to the last example of driving behavioral issues, we have been running our solution here for over 10 months, and we have detected over 700 near misses involving cyclists and vehicles. You can see the heat map in the bottom right, clearly showing a couple of hotspots, which represents about 600 of these 700 near miss events detected. The hotspots are at the same locations that's showcased in the examples that we showed before in the slide. I'd like to point out that there is a serious problem here as it's leading to crashes. Although further investigation would be required here to identify the different treatments, such as, for example, it can be adding a blank out sign, it can be about restricting the right turns on road. But what it's clear is the value that our solution brings to the table in identifying such issues. Now, let me move on to a few examples of large scale projects where we are deploying these solutions. The first one, as presented here, being at Fremont, California, where we have deployed our solution at 37 intersections. The overall budget of this project is a little bit north of $10 million, with the vision being to turn the Fremont Boulevard into a safe and smart corridor. What's interesting here is that the city can take a look at both corridor level and intersection level analytics. The screenshot in the left shows a network level view depicting the safety scores of different intersections with a singular view. On the other hand, in the screenshot in the right, we are allowing the city to have access to safety scores and the capability to compare all the different intersections. It will help the city to prioritize their work on the most problematic intersections first. And all of this is available in our dashboard platform. We will now move on to the next example, which is an intelligent corridor in Michigan. It's an in-construction project as of today's date, consisting of 50+ intersections with a budget of $11 million. It is funded by an ATCMDT grant. The goal is to transform this WOODWARE Avenue into a safe and smart corridor. We are working along this highly traveled corridor in the Detroit metro region. The department priority is to tackle vulnerable road user safety while identifying wrong way driving behaviors at the same time. Let's take a quick look at what our solution is going to do here. Well, we will track pedestrian behavior, we will detect wrong way driving incidents, and as shown in the examples shared earlier as part of this use case, we will identify near misses and crashes to help the department work on potential safety issues. With that, I will pass it back to Laura to take it from here.
Thank you. So I have a question, and there's a question in the chat that I also want to ask. So my question is, how long do cities generally need to start seeing meaningful insights?
I will take that one, Laura. It really depends on a lot of factors, such as the volume of the project, the scope of the project, the type of location we are talking about, such as intersection, roundabout, or highway corridor. But the answer would be that it depends, it will be between a couple of weeks to even a couple of months. Having said that, Derq's solution is ready to be set up and go within a day or two at max. However, the more data we are able to collect, the more we are able to account for the seasonability of the data. What I mean by that is, we ideally should be able to capture data from off-peak hours and peak hours. We should be able to capture data in daytime and in nighttime. And even better, if we can capture data during different weather conditions, such as rainy seasons, such as when it's snowing, slippery road conditions, for example, or even situations where the lane markings are all gone because of whatever the weather condition is at that point of time. It will help our solution to adapt to those weather conditions and perform at the most accurate level, be it the incident detection or the counts solution that we have, the insights count solution that we have. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, thank you. I want to now ask a question from one of the participants, which is, do you have to install new cameras to apply the AI, or is it software that's overlaid on existing camera feeds?
RD, do you want to take? I can happy to answer that one. We can work with both existing cameras and newly installed cameras. So we have pretty flexible requirements when it comes to minimum requirements when it comes to integrating with deployed cameras. So we have worked with legacy analog detection cameras, PTZs off of highways, as well as state-of-the-art CCTV or detection cameras. So both are possible, and the range of cameras we have worked with is quite extensive.
Great, thank you. One more question before we move on to the next use case. How do you deal with data privacy and open records concerns that agencies may have? We hear this often from agencies, and so be curious for your thoughts on that.
So that's actually a great question, and it's a question that is quite recurring. And so first of all, as part of our Derq solution, we typically comply with the agency's policies. So if they have specific retention policies, data retention policies, if they do not want to save the video, we will definitely comply with that. So we have an agency in the Northwest that actually requested us to only keep video data for 10 days. That's possible. Now, there are, of course, there's always a concern with the open records laws that you have in different states. Now, different agencies approach it differently, right? But one trend that we're definitely seeing is that more and more agencies are embracing that type of data because not only it helps them save lives, it helps them actually address specific issues that they have. But one thing they also realizing when it comes to, let's say, litigation, or when it comes to different liabilities they may have, is that more often than not, the data that they actually are in possession of actually helps them in most of those cases. So instead of having to settle lawsuits because they do not know and they don't want necessarily to go to court, they actually now have supporting data to dismiss most of those issues. So this is definitely a trend that we are seeing in our customer base. Maybe one last thing I would say is there is also part of the US code, and there is a specific section that actually makes all data that could be brought in a court of law against a specific agency non-discoverable. So protecting the agency, as long as if it's a federal funded project, and with all the federal grants, that's very timely. It makes all the data non-discoverable or that cannot be used in a court of law against that specific agency. So that's a great piece of regulation that helps agencies retain the data without being worried about potential litigation.
Thank you. I want to take a second to mention the poll that's up on the screen. If you have not answered it, please go ahead. The question is, how would you qualify your level of awareness of your safety issues? And there's 4 choices. So please take that poll if you haven't. And while we give everyone a minute to finish the poll, one last question for you both, which is in the Q&A, is MV sensor tech limited to video, or can you also ingest IR video, LiDAR, and other sources?
So we actually have a slide on that. We are working primarily with video, but we're also now exploring most of our video when we install new cameras include infrared, and we are we have experimented extensively with radar, and we're starting to look at LiDAR, of course, as additional layer of data and redundancy in our system. Great.
Okay, now I think everyone should be able to see the results of the poll up online. And so I see 33% answered we have limited awareness and tracking, 26% we aggregate and analyze crash reports, 15% said we do safety audits occasionally, and then 26% said we have continuous safety performance monitoring. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to Carl and Arjit to go on to the next use case.
Thanks, Laura. So we will introduce you to the concept of safe intersection now, and this builds on top of the safety insights that DURC powers. We like to think that a safe intersection is the one that is composed of safety responsive traffic systems, which means systems that are not only responding to traffic performance, but also to real-time safety conditions. Well, here in this diagram, you can see camera sensors, RSUs, connected vehicles, connected users, all parts of the system. What this intersection will be able to achieve is multimodal detection, including pedestrian or bicyclist detection. We have an adaptive control that responds to safety situation and can activate blackout signs. We can also send out notifications to connected vehicles and connected devices such as a pet or bike smartphone app. At some projects, we are even working on controlling the brightness of streetlights. Now, let me walk you a bit deeper into what a safety responsive operation will look like. In this architecture, you have the sensors, the DURC AI that's taking sensor data and identifying and reporting safety events and incidents like pet searches, red light running, left turn trends, etc. Well, if you remember, in the first use case, we did identify a pattern of problem with impermissive left turns. So with this safe intersection system, we would be able to identify issues like that and then notify the operator accordingly so that crashes due to permissive lefts can be avoided. Our AI can identify trends and then send instructions to the controller to modify signal operations in real time. This is in direct response to those trends as they are identified. We can also control blankout signs and street light brightness, as I mentioned before as well. Remember our first use case where a vehicle turning red collided with a cyclist crossing the road. A simple blankout sign in that case indicating the presence of the cyclist to the right turning vehicle could have helped avoid the crash. We can also alert the road users in real time with help of CV2X or LTE technologies. And then finally, we can notify the operators to create logs and reports of the events in different kinds of reporting systems, such as an ATMS or the dashboard. Having said that, let me now show you where we have demonstrated and deployed this kind of solution. The first one that we'll talk about was done at Florida DOT at the Transportation Engineering Research Lab last year. We showed them how all of these different subsystems successfully integrate together and work as an end-to-end solution to improve both the pedestrian and cyclist safety. Note that this was demonstrated at both intersections and mid-block crossings. We have another project which is about to kick off with the city of Dublin, Ohio, where we are looking at improving safety of a roundabout and adjacent intersections using state-of-the-art sensors such as cameras and LiDARs, connected vehicle technologies, as well as integration with traffic signal controllers and RRSBs. Another key objective that I would like to mention, which is part of the project, is to increase the throughput at the busy roundabout, which is, by the way, at the intersection of two state roads. We are achieving this by integrating the real-time traffic data into different coordination algorithms at both the upstream and downstream intersections. Having said that, I will now pass it on to Laura for the next poll.
Great, sorry about that. Right now, we have another poll on the screen, which I'll mention. And if you have questions, please feel free to put them into the Q&A and we will ask them. Next poll, which of the technologies presented would be the most interesting to your agency? And you can see the choices on the screen. So take a few minutes as we ask some questions to answer that poll. And I will kick it off with the first question, which is, I'm sure that for different agencies and different projects, you do face different challenges in implementation. But if you had to maybe tick off one or two top challenges, what are the most common challenges you face when implementing solutions, and how do you overcome them?
I can take that question, and I think one key challenge is definitely the challenge around data. So we did address that one. Around data ownership, data retention, and so that's one important challenge that we have to always be mindful of. Then there are challenges that are more related to I would say new technologies in general. So the fact that we have to use AI, we have to store data, we have to deploy very often software-based solutions. So this, for example, is quite novel for the types of agencies we work with. How do you purchase software-based solutions? How do you maintain software-based solutions on the long run? Why is that? An artificial intelligence system is a system that improves and maintains its quality and improves its quality based on data collection. So there is a service associated to that, and it's difficult sometimes for agencies to be able to procure those types of services. Another challenge we see is deploying cloud-based solutions. This is, again, a novelty for a lot of our agencies, which are used to on-premise deployments, completely closed systems with having strict requirements to be able to access from external outside of their networks. And we're seeing a lot more agencies that are now making the move into cloud-based solutions, but it's also taking time on the policy side and on the procurement side, as they're also trying to navigate the different large providers that provide cloud-based solutions. So this is definitely as well a challenge that we work with, and very often we always find a solution because we're always flexible to be able to run the analytics and the reporting either within the customer's network or entirely on the cloud, or split the load between the cloud and the customer network. All of that is possible, and we really try to adapt. To the customer's realities and what their policies and infrastructure looks like, and that's really, again, thanks to the fact that we're primarily software, we are quite nimble and flexible, where we can deploy the different components of the software on different platforms.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a really good point, which is that it really is a mindset shift and a culture shift when you're investing in these digital tools and softwares versus traditional investments of hard infrastructure. That is something that we at ITS America have been talking a lot about, especially during this new bipartisan infrastructure law, as the funding's gone out, to really make the case that we need to be investing in these digital tools, as well as the physical side of the infrastructure, if we truly want to get to Vision Zero, if we want to optimize the assets that we have, and if we want to be able to take more proactive safety measures using insights, just like you're talking about. So it really is a big culture shift. One more question for you is, despite all of ITS America's advocacy, penetration of CV technologies for safety in vehicles is quite low for now. So how do you envision your solutions helping agencies in the short to medium term?
So that's a great question, and it's a question we get often, even our partner agencies, or when we start the discussion with them, is, they don't necessarily, they will first thing when they tell us, we do not have a fleet of or wide penetration of connected vehicles and within our territory or our jurisdiction, and that's definitely an understandable challenge to deploy connected vehicle technologies. But there are steps to get there, right? To get to that ideal state where all the vehicles are connected. First of all, agencies and the likes of Michigan DOT, for example, is on that intelligent WOODWARE corridor, the M1 corridor, is equipping all of its transit vehicle and some of its utility vehicle with CV2X unit, right? So right away, the vehicles that will have, so they have a light rail, they have all the smart BRT and bus system. All those vehicles will have onboard units as they transit through that corridor. Then you add in some utilities, some of their own fleet vehicle, and you start having vehicles that operate on that fixed route that will immediately benefit from the system. And then the second layer is how we not only leverage CV2X, but also leverage LTE. And we like to think of all of those combined constitute the connected vehicle world, right? And it's not just DSRC versus other technologies. It's a mix of cellular V2X, LTE, 5G enabling technologies. And there are a number of ways now, for example, where we can send some of the incidents that we detect or some of the insights or trends into some of the into mapping applications, Google Maps and Waze. We can send it through to OEM applications and try to push the data into OEM vehicles. One great company that we're pretty close with is Haas Alert, right? They have a great platform to send all the vehicles into Stellantis. So those are ways where we can actually have immediate penetration of connected vehicle applications as more and more car manufacturers and fleets get retrofitted or equipped with CV2X radio.
Absolutely. Great. Well, I don't see any questions in the chat for the moment. So I think we're going to show the results of the poll. So which of the technologies presented will be most interesting to your agency? Well, the top choice is all of the above, which is great. And then we have a tie for safety and traffic insights based on video analytics and safety responsive video detection systems. And then VDEX applications using infrastructure sensors is in third place. So I think it just goes to show that you really need a holistic suite of solutions if you're going to try and tackle safety, that no one single solution is going to get the job done in every situation. So let's go ahead and move on to the next slide. So we're going to talk a little bit about the funding opportunities now. Go ahead to the next slide. I think this is Okay, so I'm going to talk about this briefly. I think that most people are familiar right now with the safety related and technology related grants within the bipartisan infrastructure law, but we are going to take a few minutes to go over them. As you all recall, this is a 5-year bill, which means that there are different NOFOs every single year and different application processes every single year. So the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act has 3 main grant programs, I'll say, that focus on technology and road safety, and then the Intersection Safety Challenge, which we'll talk about in a minute. Safe Streets and Roads for All is sort of what the US DOT kind of calls their marquee program on safety. It is a large program. It's $1 billion. It is important to know that it is only open to local agencies. It is not, states are not eligible to submit for a Safe Streets for All grant. However, it is a very robust program for local agencies. One thing I do want to mention about that before we go into the details on the specific grants is that in this next funding round, which is going to end at the end of July, they're actually, I'll say, earmarking, for lack of a better term, $250 million of the next eligible grants under Safe Streets for All for what they are calling quick build demonstration projects. And what I think is very relevant to this audience is that one of the descriptions of that, and we will put this in the chat for everybody, and it is on the Safe Streets for All website now, includes pilot programs that demonstrate safety benefits of technologies not yet adopted in the community. Example, variable speed limits, technology for adaptive signal timing, adaptive lighting, intelligent transportation systems, vehicle to infrastructure technology. Eligible technologies must be commercially available and at a prototype or advanced technological readiness level. So this is a feature of the Safe Streets for All program that does give quite a decent opening for investment in ITS technologies. So let me stop there and turn it back over to you, Carl and Arjit, to go through some more detail on the funding programs.
Sure, and thanks, Laura, and I think you make a great point, and that's why I pulled up the slide. This is a key change, a key, I would say, improvement versus last year's program, is that the demonstration aspect in the first phase of the grant, or the planning phase of the grant, is now acceptable. So which is great, because now agencies can plan and design and demonstrate some of those solutions that they believe will be beneficial for safety. And this was originally reserved really just for the SMART program, and now I think they brought that concept onto the SS4A program, which is great. So as Laura said, it's $1 billion annually. The key objective is to reduce fatalities and roadway serious injuries. Sorry. There's 2 components to the grant. There's 2 application tracks: the planning and demonstration one, as well as the implementation grant. So, and then there's not as much detail as last year on the funding allocation, but if we believe it will remain the same, and from what Laura's saying, it's about a 40-60% split there. This is, as Laura said, it's mainly reserved for anything below state level, so MPOs, state subdivisions, local, municipal, tribal agencies. However, partnering with a state agency is definitely encouraged. So that's very important. Is if you have the support of your state department of transportation or similar departments, then that definitely is encouraged, as well as encouraged with partnering with private companies that can bring innovation. There's a big angle around innovation in the grant objectives, and so that as well is encouraged. And there's a number of agencies we work with. You take the city of Detroit, got awarded $25 million because it has an extensive action plan. It had innovation aspects included in it, and it's really great to see Detroit getting that amount of funding. Just to kind of talk a bit about the funding, planning and demonstration grants are anywhere between $100,000 and $10 million. And this is, I think, really thanks. This part increased really thanks to the demonstration component. And then the implementation grant can vary anywhere between 2.5 and $25 million. And that really depends again on how the partnerships are built, whether it's a single agency application or multi-agency application as well. Moving on to another program, and this one is more focused around technology, but it has key safety objectives that are in its requirements. So the SMART program is $100 million annually for the next 5 years, and the goal of that program is to fund demonstration projects for advanced technologies and systems. And so those technologies have to be able to improve transportation efficiency and safety. And here states are allowed, of course, are part of the eligible recipients, as well as all the other we mentioned above. Here there are 2 stages. There's a planning and prototyping stage. This is a mandatory stage, and where the agency can get up to $2 million. There is no match expected on that one. And then, yeah, it spans over 18 months. And the planning and prototyping phase includes a proof of concept, and then, you know, partnership building, and to be able to move quickly to demonstrate, which is really an important part of the grant. And then the second stage is the implementation stage. This is where after having a successful stage 1, an agency can be awarded an additional pool of money up to $15 million to now scale up the demonstrated technology, and then be able to really have an impact on safety and efficiency. Now, if we look at the objectives and the technology areas that it covers, we identify a few of them. There's 8 of them. If we look at, for example, the traffic signals technology area, you can see clearly that it has to target, it includes targeting detection. It includes targeting as well V2X technologies, which we spoke about earlier. And when I talked about detection, sorry, just to go back, it's both vehicles and pedestrian and bicycle detection. Now, if we also look at intelligent sensors, again, here, it's about how we can better collect and report data. And we presented how data collection and reporting is critical as well when it comes to addressing safety issues. Moving on to another program. This is the ATTAIN grant. This one is about advanced transportation technology and innovation. This is the, I would say, the new ATC MTD program, $60 million annually. And again, here it's to be able to deploy, install, and operate advanced transportation technologies. Part of the goals, of course, you always have safety that is identified as a key priority. And now this is not only open to states, MPOs, and local governments, but we can also have research and academic institutions, and a number of them have received grants over the years. We're working, for example, with the University of Michigan, which recently received a few grants from the ATTAIN and the former ATC MTD grant. Here again, partnerships are encouraged. If we look at the safety-related technology areas under this program, we have a very strong component on V2X, collision avoidance solutions, including the use of cellular technologies. There's a big component on retrofitting the DSRC. So, of course, the department wants to see those V2X deployments, stay alive. So they're also helping agencies fund the retrofits to CV2X. And then there's a big component on integrating and multimodal connected corridor management systems. And then finally, there's an interesting development from the DOT, if you have not heard of it. And this is not a grant per se, it's more of a challenge. And it's one that at DERC we're really excited about, because it's one where as an organization we've been advocating for that type of technology and that type of end-to-end solution for quite some time. So the FHWA and the DOT has at the last ITS America show has announced their intersection safety challenge, where it's a two-phase challenge where organizations, and that can be companies, agencies, and research institutions, can propose concepts around what would constitute an intersection safety system. The goal is to have a system that at scale would cost $10,000 or less. And it's a system that can encompass a lot of the concept that we presented to you earlier, which is using existing and emerging sensor technologies with data fusion. And this, of course, brings a lot of improvement in how we improve VRU safety, for example. Then the use of AI and machine learning, and RG spoke about, how AI helps drastically improve video analytics, but it can also help tackle issues such as sensor fusion. So when we have multiple sensing technologies at an intersection, AI can really help do that fusion and then improve situational awareness. And at DURC, we have something that we call the unified representation, where we fuse the different sensors to create one bird's eye view of the intersection. If you can think of it of a digital twin, to use a buzzword right now. And then finally, what I was saying earlier, it has to be a low cost, high value opportunity with the target of costing $10,000 or less at scale for the system, the standalone system itself. So that being said, I will turn it back to Laura, and I believe we have another poll.
Oh, great. Okay, so yes, a third poll, which is, are you applying for any IIJA federal grants this year? So take a moment and fill this poll out. One thing I think that's really important for everyone to think about is, if you look at the numbers in the grant funding, there's a big difference between 1 billion in funding for Safe Streets for All and 100 million in SMART, or 60 million in ATTAIN. And so one of the things I think is really incumbent upon all of us in the industry is to really be incorporating these technology solutions into all of the different projects that you're looking at doing, even if it's a physical project, incorporating the technology layer into that. So if you have a Safe Streets for All grant, making sure that you're thinking about what is that technology safety layer that actually can really enhance my project and deliver on safety, in addition to perhaps a physical redesign or a physical element, because there's far more money available in some of those larger grant programs than there are in what has been colloquially known as the tech programs, right? The SMART and ATTAIN. And so we really want to make sure that we're infusing these investments in technology into all of the projects and all of the funding as much as possible. Because at the end of the day, as I said at the beginning, we know we are only going to meet our goals on safety, on climate, on equity, on efficiency, and reducing congestion if we actually deploy technology solutions, ITS solutions throughout the transportation system. So let's give everyone just another minute to take the poll, and then I will give one last call for questions in the chat. If you have any questions that you want to ask of the DURC team, now is your chance. So don't be bashful. Feel free to put any questions in the chat. While we're waiting, one last question for you all. I think you mentioned this actually, Carl, but did DURC support any successful grant applications under the new that were awarded under the new safety programs?
Yes, we have a number of them. Some of them are still, I think we worked with the agency. They're still going after, their procurement, I would say. But we are collaborating with them. Some of them are more public. If you take the city of Detroit, applied for a few grants, actually. They were also awarded a SMART program in which they named DURC as a technology partner. So yeah, we have been fortunate to partner with some agencies that whose applications were successful, and we're really looking forward to those projects.
Great. All right, well, let's see if we have the poll results. Okay, so the largest percentage, 78% of you all said that you are not going for a grant this year, or you're not yet decided. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is a 5-year program, a 5-year bill. So the opportunity to apply for a grant is going to continue to come around. 11% said yes, they're looking at multiple grant types. 4% said they're looking at advanced technology grants like SMART or ATTAIN. And 7% said yes, they are looking at a Safe Streets for All grant, looking at applying for a Safe Streets for All grant. So I guess I'll ask you all, Carl and Arjit, does that answer surprise you? Does that poll answer surprise you at all?
It does. I mean, it does actually surprise me, because I would say last year, the SS4A program at least came a bit as a surprise. It was a bit of a short notice to get together, put a team together. A lot of agencies still managed to put it together, but I would have expected more agencies to be prepared for an SS4A this year. Let's see. I mean, the applications are due a month from now, a bit over a month. So let's see if there'll be more applications being submitted.
Yeah, I know they were very, very much oversubscribed the first year.
Yeah.
So will be interesting to see that. And as we mentioned in the slides, the SS4A comes up, as you mentioned, just at the end of July. And then the next rounds of SMART and ATTAIN we expect later this fall. ATTAIN, actually, the first round of ATTAIN was just announced maybe a week or so ago.
Yep.
And there were several connectivity related grants, which was great to see.
Yep.
Okay, so I think you guys have done a fantastic job, because you've answered all the questions and everyone knows exactly now how they're going to tackle safety. But thank you all. Thank you to everyone who has attended the webinar and listened in. Thank you so much to the DERC team for taking the time to present on this and to be a partner with ITS America and to help agencies around the country save lives and reduce fatalities on our roads. So thank you to all of you. We will give you 5 minutes back in your busy afternoons, and look forward to seeing you all on the next webinar. So thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you.